Hey, what's up? Today is part 2 of our video series on making an art print, and today we're going to cover a line art. I'll be doing like a short little demo before we get into the time lapse of me making the Watcher line art. But again, we'll be working in Clip Studio Paint.
Yay!
I'll show you some of the features that I use to get really nice, clean, crisp lines, and some of the brush settings that you can set up that will aid you in your quest for that perfectly crisp, beautiful line. That will include using some specific rulers, and will also include stabilization settings if you need a little bit of extra help. And I'm also going to show you how I set up my layers so I can easily draw over my sketch with ease and clarity and not get confused by the layers or not understanding whether I'm working on the right layer or not. And I'll also go over how I start to add asymmetry to the design and how I separate layers in that way so there's less confusion, and it's involving using layer masks and a color overlay over a certain layer. But yeah, I'll get more into it when we get to that point. I've also wanted to mention that I'm using a large Cintiq, but all this stuff should work on the iPad, or if you're using an Intuos or whatever type of drawing tablet. Huion, I think is how you pronounce one of the other brands. There's all sorts of options now, which is really cool, but I have a Cintiq. It doesn't matter what type of device you have. It's a skill thing. It's not a thing. It's not based on the device. Also, I want to say welcome to my new subscribers. As always, please leave any questions or comments below. Let me know if there's anything that's confusing or you want me to cover. I'm happy to help. That's what I'm here for. And regarding my shorts, I know it was a little bit silly and a little bit different energy than this particular video, mainly because all my children and wife are all asleep, so I don't want to wake them from being silly. But I'll try and bring that energy back in the next video. Maybe I'll do a separate recording to add to this video to make it a little more entertaining. But yeah, right now I'm pretty mellow. Come on, let's go. Let's go. So we are gonna start from scratch. I guess I need to make a sketch real quick. So I'll do that now. Okay, that's good enough. We got some overlaying layers, and what I wanted to show you is, so you've got a sketch in Clip Studio Paint, and when you do your final export, you definitely don't want this to show up. I mean, you can always export it and see, oh, whoops, I forgot to turn off that layer, but you can also hit this set as draft layer, which is right here. And you'll see this little blue line that shows up next to your layer that indicates that it will no longer export that draft layer when you're exporting in Clip Studio unless you tell it to. So if I go to like export, and I'll just call this test, and I'm not actually going to save it, the dialog box will come up, and output image, you can choose whether or not you export that layer. So if you want to export it, you can hit draft, or you can turn it off by clicking on the draft button. Sorry if I just spoke too loudly into the microphone. Let me move this down a little bit more. Yeah, so I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to save. But yeah, we turn that into a draft layer. And what you'll want to do next, you might have noticed earlier, I press the layer color, and that automatically changes it to blue. You can actually change what the default color is, but I do blue because it reminds me of those blue pencils, the non-photo blue pencils. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but in comic book drafting, usually in the inking stage, the inker will ink over blue lined artwork that doesn't show up when you scan a bitmap black and white image. Maybe I'll do a video about that someday, but my channel's not really about comics, so I'll probably not bother. But that's the reason I like using blue, but you can make it red, orange, whatever color you want. And you do that just by selecting a color and then filling it, or clicking here and you can shift to whatever color you want. But blue's fine. Sometimes I turn the opacity down a little bit so it's easier to see. And yeah, so what we're gonna do is let's create a brush from scratch, because we don't need to use somebody else's brush. We can make our own brush. You can make your own brush. It's not that hard. And it really, there's only a few settings that make a huge difference in the style of paint or drawing, painting or drawing that you're creating. And other than that, besides like texture brushes, it's not really that important. Okay? Despite all those brushes that are for sale, it's not that important to have tons of brushes, because I really don't use that many. Even though I have a ton, as you can see, I've got all these textures, blah, 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 skin, hair, nature, rocks, but I don't use them that much. All right, so you're gonna wanna hit Create Custom Subtool. And here we're just gonna call it YouTube inking brush. And maybe after I'm done, I will export this, and after we create the brush, maybe I'll export it and just make it available for download if you want, because it's fine. You can absolutely use it, but it's not. You can have it for free, okay? We made it together, so you might as well be involved. Okay, so this opens up the Subtool Detail panel, and you can actually leave this panel open as you draw, so it's not that big of a deal to just leave it open if you want to change things on the fly. But there are the easier ways to change things when you kind of do a custom setup with like the quick tools, quick access panel. But I'll do that in another video. I definitely have plans to show off the quick access panel, because I really, really like that feature in Clip Studio Paint. Okay, so look at this. This is honestly a really nice looking line. That's one of the things I love about Clip Studio Paint, is the default stuff is really nice. That's a really clean looking line, and it's got a nice taper too. So if you're not familiar with taper is when you're drawing and then it thins out, and you basically achieve that by letting go of the brush or your stylus on your tablet and easing up on it, and you kind of do like a flick where you like slowly ease up on the pressure to get that taper. As you can see, I've done this a lot, so it comes out pretty easily for me. But something I did want to share is the stabilization feature. If we go to the correction panel in the Subtool Detail menu, you will see this option right here, and if you click on the eyeball button here, it'll actually show up in the tool property panel. So if there's anything that you're working on in the Subtool Detail menu and it's not showing up here in your tool property panel over here, just turn the eye on and you'll be able to see it. So we've got stabilization on, and if you're not really confident in your ability to make very smooth lines, I recommend turning this up. It's a matter of preference. It definitely moves slower the more you have stabilization turned up. So you might want to start slow and kind of work your way up and see what feels best. But you can basically, I'm throwing my stylus all over the place, and it's it's still coming out very smooth. So, and if you take your time, you're going to get some very nice, clean lines that are very smooth. The slower you go with the stabilization, the smoother the line is going to get. But I mean, I did that in one try, and it came out exactly, almost exactly like my sketch, except I changed it a little bit because I wanted to fix the line. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, and there wasn't a lot of pressure. Whereas, like, let's say I go back down to like, let's just turn off all stabilization. Let's kind of show you. You have to have a lot more control. And I mean, it's probably a bad example for me to do. You can kind of tell it's a little wiggly, but since I do this so much, I'm able to do it without stabilization. But yeah, let's move this one over, and we can kind of compare lines, because we'll be nerdy like that. Nice and smooth. Do it like faster. Yeah, look. If you notice right here, there's kind of some little bit of a bump there. I missed the target there a little bit. There's some things you can tell on the, like, this I didn't use a pen tool or nothing. It was just perfectly clean. So yeah, as you can see, let's go ahead and delete one of these and move it back. As you can see, the stabilization is great. If I'm trying to do like really ornate details, and I want it to be very exact, this is what I do. But if I want something to have a little more character to it, feel more natural, like I'm inking on real paper and have the flaws of human hands, then I'll typically have it turned down, because it does slow things down like a little bit. But if you're struggling, this is a great way to get some really nice clean lines. Do like a little flourish, swirl, do my little tapers at the end. And yeah, this is my go-to if I really want something to be exact and clean. Yeah, as you get, it's more like a tool for helping beginners get that really nice clean line if it's necessary. But I don't use it too much. But I wanted to share that little tip. Yeah, it gives you a really nice. It gives you that crisp, clean line that you can get in Illustrator usually, and not in a program like this. Another thing you can do with the brushes, if you turn on a vector layer, so if you click new vector layer instead of a new raster layer, raster is pixel. So when you're working in pixels, if you zoom in real close, you're basically just filling in pixel, whereas with vector layer, it's points. It's mathematical points. I can select this, and no, this isn't the best way to do it. You can have less of those dots in your drawing, but you can go in and draw a line. You're like, oh man, I want this to be a little bit thicker. You can change the brush size. You can edit your marks on the fly if you're being more careful with your line art. But another cool thing about vector lines, and I might have shared this in another video, is if you have crossed over lines and you want it to overlay, if you have the eraser set to, let's see, vector eraser, if you have vector eraser turned on and erase up to intersection, it will erase up to where lines cross, so you automatically have crossed over line art, so you don't have to you don't actually have to do the other method that I actually do in this video. I don't know. I just always forget to turn on the vector layer, to be honest. And that's why I don't usually do this. It's a bad habit. I will say there is some kind of like look to the vector lines that isn't as natural looking to me, but it's really hard to tell. So that's another thing. If you really want that really crisp line, use a vector layer. And let's see, anti-aliasing. I'd say medium anti-aliasing is good. Basically, the way anti-aliasing works is, zoom in here. You can see there's no kind of fall off from the line. If you get closer, see there now there's like some gray. Medium gives you like a little bit smoother, and then strong is like a lot more gentle. So compare the strong versus 0. It's basically like a bitmap drawing, which, well, I keep getting off on tangents. I don't want to get off a target. Otherwise, this video will be really long. But yeah, so let's go ahead and delete that and delete that, and let's kind of go over how I do overlays on my artwork. So let's go ahead and draw the frontal objects that are closer to the viewer on the Z-plane. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's actually behind. So let's do all the layers behind. That would be better. And I'll just sketch this watcher real quick. This will kind of be behind. And this is just for an example. I don't plan to do anything with this, but we can if you want. Maybe what I'll also do is share the sketch, and you can and the brush, and you can practice this yourself, because why not? I'm friendly like that. I want to help you improve. I want to share skills, and yeah, why not? Okay. I mean, this is actually looking kind of cool with how short of amount of time that I'm working on it. So let's set this up as another color, maybe like red. And let's draw this real quick. Whoop. Do we have any other design behind? Okay, so now we can go in, see where these intersect. And actually that's in front. So let's go in and erase. It's a lot easier in vector layer, isn't it? And let's draw this nose. Let's draw this squiggly, wiggly, diggly. Doo-wop-ba-da-ba-bum. Now you can you can preserve your line art in case you decide you want to shift something around instead of just erasing it and losing that line. So if you click on your layer and then go down here and click on create layer mask, if you erase on the layer mask, you can erase the parts you don't want with your eraser. I just flip my stylus around to access the eraser and erase the lines you don't want. Pretty easy peasy, and it gives your drawing a lot of depth. I think line art is the most interesting when you have a lot of things overlapping. It gets really exciting and energetic, and there's lots of stuff going on. So I think it'd be really important to learn how to overlay objects, shapes, and also foreshortening. Foreshortening is really important. That's when things, like for example, on this line art, because this line wraps in front of this line, you can tell this is closer to the viewer than this section. If I wanted to indicate that this is kind of this section up here is going away, I can use lines to, let's see, it would be more like that. That kind of indicates that it's going away from the viewer. So use foreshortening lines and tapers. I particularly like for my comic line art, because it just kind of vanishes. Whereas if I turned off pressure sensitivity, all your lines would be the same width. And you can do that. Like there's some artists that don't use tapers. You can still get away with drawing some cool things without a taper at the end of your lines, but let's be honest, tapers look really good. Okay, what else? So let's do this bottom part of the mouth. Let's add a little bit of extra flourish to it, so it looks a little more interesting. That's the thing, when you're working on the line art, you can still explore your idea, and you don't have to do exactly what your sketch told you to do. You can continue up with your idea all throughout this process. It's not important to stick with the plan if you come up with a better plan during this phase. I would say when you get to color, you definitely don't want to get away from yourself and your original idea, but yeah, play around with it. Nothing's usually the best idea the first time around, so taper. Okay, and then we turn this off, and look, we got two black lines, and they're overlaid, and they look nice. It looks nice. And let's do one more layer above, add a color, and let's draw this last eye in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's do a fill-in for his eye. Oops. There we go. Let's erase. We can merge those layers because they are correctly overlaid. And then I'm just going to erase this and not care about making a mask just because I want to wrap this up. Excuse me. Okay. So there you have it. You got your line art. You've got your sketch underneath. We went over stabilization settings. Oh, you know what? I got one more thing I wanted to show you. If you really want some extra control, or say you want to draw like some primitive shapes like a circle, if you go to the ruler section, there's the linear rulers, there's curve rulers, there's all sorts of different types of rulers. Check out the defaults in Clip Studio. If you go to a special ruler, click in the section that says special ruler, and there are like 7 other types of special rulers that you can play with and are absolutely worth checking out. But I'll go over those another time. But just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do with a ruler and still give it a hand-drawn feel, is you can, let's do this on a separate layer so we don't mess up our artwork. Draw a circle and take our new tool that we made and adjust the pressure as we, so you can change the thick and thinness of this line. And that does not look like an ordinary circle that you get in like, I know you can adjust things in Adobe Illustrator, but this is a lot faster. And you can take your ruler, hold Alt and Shift and reduce the size, switch back to your brush and keep doodling. And you can change it to an oval size. And here you can see, you can get some pretty cool looking designs by using rulers, and you can use combinations of rulers, all sorts of things. I am definitely going to do a video on rulers because I think it's a really unutilized tool in Clip Studio, but that's just a little taste. And you can, if you struggle drawing circles, you've got a ruler for it. Triangles, straight lines, there's all sorts of things that you can use. There's basically a pen tool if you're familiar with the pen tool in like Photoshop and Illustrator. Clip Studio has that, and you can always make lines that way. I'll leave that in there just in case. I'll leave it in the Clip Studio file, and I'll share this file with you just in case you want to have a peek. Yeah, one last thing. There are straight line tools. It's going to the tool palette. There's a look at the different tools. I've kind of customized this, so it's going to look a little bit different, but you should be able to find where the straight line tool is, and you can draw straight lines that way if you want. Another way to do that is with your brush tool selected, that whatever you're using to ink with. If you press and hold so wherever you stopped last, and you hold the Shift key and click or press down with your pen stylus, it'll make a line. So that's another way to make line art, straight line art. I promised you that we'd make clean line art, and here it is. Look at those lines. That's very crisp. Yeah, so next I'm going to go into the line art for my art print that I'm making, so let's go. right, well, that covers part 2 of our video series. I really want to thank you for watching and subscribing. I think there will be either 2 or 3 more videos in this series, so there will be some more information to absorb. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you have a blessed day. I'll talk to you hopefully next week. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Goodbye.